How does it feel to be 102?
I think it feels like being 102 and a half. I really, it is what it is. And I'm in awe of the fact that it still is, that in my lifetime, when I never even had a telephone when I was a kid, be able to talk to Australian, be looking at your face and talking to you. I mean, that's amazing.
What's your favorite decade that you lived through?
One that I was living at the time.
I love that.
Because life has been so interesting. What's not to be interested in when you're right there in the middle of it?
I've seen so much profound change.
I've lived through them. It's not just getting over them. A lot of times bad things happen, uncomfortable things happen and so on. And we want to get over them, but it doesn't work that way. The important thing is to live through them so that you get the lessons that are coming from those things, because everything is a lesson.
I love that. And you mentioned that in your book, everything is a lesson and everyone is a teacher.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think then is your greatest lesson?
That love is the most important, but that love and life have to work together. They don't do much of anything if they're not connected to start with, because it's like the yin and the yang. It's like the positive and negative, male and female, pregnancy and birth. These are things that have to be femifested before they can manifest. It's a matter of bringing the yin into reality so that it can be the yang. These two aspects of our being are so interconnected that they don't do well without the other.
Yeah, beautifully said. You're no stranger to challenge. I know in your book you share about Bill.
That aspect of my life was probably the most devastating, because Bill and I had done so much together. We'd started the American Holistic Medical Association. We had the ARE clinic. We were doing lectures around the country. Even we'd gone around the world. We had done 46 years of what I considered amazing work together. And then he asked for a divorce, and it threw me into the wilds. I absolutely had no way of putting it together that I could even begin. Why? How? Who? All of this. I was driving home from my office to my empty home in Casa Grande, and I was in the car, and I was really screaming at God. I wasn't saying this isn't nice. I mean, I was screaming. I was so broken, so hurt, so just devastated, because everything that I thought was what we had been working for was up for grabs. Not our kids. I mean, our 6 kids were solidly there with me, but everything else was thrown into the universe to sort of catch as catch can. And so I was driving down. I was really letting God know that he didn't understand how things were on this earth. And it was really pretty awful. And all of a sudden I pulled over to the side of the road, and the words came down to me. And as I quieted down and began to really listen to what my basic soul was saying, or something was speaking to me. And I heard, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Well, my name's Gladys. So I thought, okay, that's my license plate. So I went home and made sure that I got my license plate on my car changed to Be Glad. So the rest of the time that I drove around Phoenix for the next, 35, 40, until I retired, my car was saying to the people who were in traffic behind me, be glad, while I was saying it to myself. It was a time when I had to grab hold of what I could and take the steps from there on. And then I began to get things back in order.
That you had to go through was to learn to forgive.
And my dreams have been so important in helping me take the steps that I needed to take, or explain things to me as I began to walk the path again, until I now feel like the time that Bill and I spent together, I don't really regret one moment of that, because we did amazing things together. And it was an amazing time. I loved every minute of it. So I don't regret that. And then I figured he took a vacation. I can't do anything about what he decided to do or what was important to him, but I had to take, and the beautiful thing about it was I had to stand up and say what I needed to say, and have my voice heard, which I had really been rejecting. I'd always referred to other people, and it was a matter of now, all right, you said it, do you believe it? And I did.
Well, you say in the book that you found your voice, you found your authentic voice at the age of 90. Do you feel that Bill had helped you in a way through these lessons that you'd learned?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, we did things that are just, we started the American Holistic Medical Association. When we started it, there were just 5 of us doctors. I was the only woman, but it took us 2 years to decide how to spell holistic, because the word that we were looking for was the base word for that was health, healing, and holy. So it had to start with H, not the W word. So I mean, the word holistic that way is really important. But what we were calling for was reclaiming the spiritual aspect of our being. And Bill and I understood that. We talked about it. We knew about it. We taught about it. We preached about it. We wrote about it, and our kids understood it. And the patients that we talked to, it was, our life was involved with that whole concept of how important life itself was. And we loved every minute of it. His leaving was his getting tangled up in his old karmic patterns, and he couldn't get rid of them. That's his problem.
That was his lesson. And I know you love to think positively. I say things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And I always go on to say that they happen for our spiritual and our evolutionary growth. And sometimes they come in undesirable things, a breakup, a loss of a child.
Some illness might be the one that brings it to you. The field of medicine has gotten stuck since the World War II when I was in medical school, because everything that we still are trying to do and working with is a war against disease and pain. We want to get rid of pain and we want to get rid of diseases. And I think that's wrong. I think that, first of all, I think what we've done to birthing is terrible. And my first 2 children were born this way. We used what was called twilight sleep, which meant that you were totally anesthetized. The woman absolutely had no ability to push when it came time to push the baby out. She couldn't do it. So we then had to learn how to use forceps in order to deliver the baby, because it couldn't be born unless it was delivered. And so I got very good at that. I could deliver an aftercoming head and it'd be okay. Took me a while to forgive myself when I began to understand what we had really done, to realize that what we really did with that whole process was to take the woman's basic internal power away from her, so that women don't know that it's their, not just their job to birth baby, but it's their glory. It's what we're here for. It's the essence of our being, to have a loving birth for the child. So instead of saying we delivered babies, and sometimes I catch myself saying that still, because we said it for so long. We don't deliver babies. We deliver pizzas, we deliver speeches, we deliver stuff. Women birth babies. They don't do it by themselves. I mean, they need help, and that's what we're there for, and we can do that.
I wanted to ask you about the metaphysical connection between the body and illness. Groundbreakers like Louise Hay and even people before her have spoken about the interconnectedness between the body and metaphysics. What's your view?
I have a story for that. I have a story for everything.
Love that.
My eldest son is an orthopedic surgeon.
Yes.
And he came through Phoenix ready to start his surgical practice in Del Rio, Texas. And he said to me, "Mom, I'm real scared." He said, I have all this training and I love the kind of work and so on. But he said, I'm going to have people's lives in my hands. I don't know if I can handle that. And I said, well, Carl, if you think you're the one that does the healing, you have a right to be scared. But you have learned to do something that is so helpful that people who need orthopedic work need a good orthopedist doing it. They don't need, they need to have somebody that can really do the job that you've taken all this time and energy and so on to learn and do and be able. You do the best that you can, and then in the process, you connect with the physician within that patient. You now have a person that you can, you turn the healing aspect of this whole process over to the colleague who is the physician within the patient, who takes what you've given, what you're still giving with love, and integrates that into the way they're dealing with their body and their healing and disease or whatever it is. But it's that reality that there's I like to think of it as a colleague, a real being within the patient that can understand what it is that I'm working with or that I'm dealing with, and they can interpret it into their own life process in such a way that they can use it.
Well, you say that love is the most powerful medicine there is.
Absolutely.
And often, I think I recall in your early training, you had one of the educators say that, doctors are trained to kill disease. That's their training. And often it's this absence of love, really, which is more of a holistic way of looking at it. But love really is the most powerful medicine, isn't it?
It is. I have 5 L's that kind of gave me a foundation on which to build that concept for myself, and it's helped others. The first L is life. Yeah. Life without love can't exist. It actually can't exist. You can have a seed in the pyramid for 5,000 years, and it has all the life of the universe within its shell, but it can't do anything until love in the aspect of sunshine and rain and water and so on cracks the shell, and then the two of them become one. Then as a seed and one place where the universe has brought the love and life together, it lives. You know, just, and I have these 5 L's that I'll go through, but this life and love thing is so pivotal to my philosophy that when I think about a pregnancy, the whole pregnancy is a time when love and life and the feminine part of our femifestation aspect of our being, I can talk about anyway. The femifestation of our being is what is so important. The mother and that baby are one unit. They're not two, really. The baby eats what the mother eats, sleeps when the mother sleeps. The baby and the mother are one unit.
Yeah.
That's the whole femifestation aspect of our humanity.
Yeah.
But when the baby takes its first breath, it manifests. Then it separates itself from its mother and becomes a person who is in this world for a very special reason, at a very special time. It's that kind of divine timing and use of life that happens at that time. So life and love are just, they're one. They have to be one in order to be real. Yeah. But laughter with love, without love, is cruel. It's mean. It breaks families apart. Yeah. But laughter with love is happiness and hope and joy. It's that aspect of our being. So the 4th L is labor. Labor without love is drudgery. Oh man, I've got to go to work. There are too many diapers. This is just too hard. You drag yourself through it. But labor with love is bliss. It's the joy you have in doing what you're doing and what I'm doing. It's the joy the painter has when she paints a painting, or a singer sings. It's that inner aspect of ourselves that works harder than you would work if you were drudgery dragging yourself through it, because it's bliss. It's your bliss. It's what juices you up. It's why you who become the person that you are. And the 5th is listening. Listening without love is empty sound. But listening with love is understanding. So for me, these 5 L's have given me sort of a foundation on which to continue to build. They're very essential to my way of looking at life and living it.
And do you think that's what God is, or the definition of the divine is, this force of love?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I think the Bible starts out with kind of saying God is love.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you about your own spiritual journey, because I know you grew up in a traditional Christian family, but I believe that, you have a view of, you believe in the eternal soul, you believe in reincarnation, that we have many lives in different forms. How did you evolve with your own spiritual life and your view of the divine?
Well, Bill and I got interested in Edgar Cayce work.
Ah, yes. Beautiful.
Yeah. And we had actually our ARE clinic was the clinical research in the Edgar Cayce medical process. So that actually, when Bill began talking about, because he had come to Phoenix before we came, and he'd been in the service, and he had read about Cayce. And when he came in, and he started to talk about reincarnation, I thought, oh my, he's become a Hindu. Now what am I going to do? And,
Yeah.
but, you know, as we got into it, that wasn't it at all. The whole concept was so much broader and so much deeper that I really could accept it. And it makes so much sense. Field of medicine and watching your kids grow up and watching what they've done, you know, watching what you yourself have dreamt about and knew you needed to do and so on. It just made sense.
Have you ever had a past life regression yourself?
Yes. And I've experienced, I have one of my children that I know was my dad.
Wow.
Because of the things that he's saying and doing and
Yeah.
all of that. And another one of my grandchildren that I know is my daughter who died, you know. So it makes life so wonderfully rich and fulfilling because, you know, life goes on. And that's awesome.
When people are so afraid of death and they think that maybe this is it and they don't have this idea of an eternal soul, they're almost too afraid to live.
Well, and I think that our dream life kind of gives us a glimpse into life after death. Yeah. If we allow it to, if we can really understand what the and focus our work to understanding our dreams, because it's been really, really important for me to have my dreams understood, that I understand, and doing it for patients. Sometimes I've had patients that were really stuck and we've started working with their dreams and they just laid their whole life out for, you know, for themselves. Yeah. And they've reclaimed their lives.
Yeah. You share many secrets in your book. And I think number 4 in the book is that you are never alone.
I feel so sorry for people who feel that way, because you're not ever really alone. In fact, I kind of look at it, maybe I have a flashlight, this pretty good flashlight, and I'm walking down this dark path and I can't see any farther than where the light goes. But as I'm doing this, if I'm aware of what's happening, I can see a little light flickering over here to the right or to the left or something. But if I add my light to that little light, it makes it, you know, opens the whole thing up for that little person whose light was getting very dim. It is not anything that, you know, you could put a picture on or something like that. It's just a concept that I have, but it works for me, because I think a lot of times you say something and for some reason you help that person understand something that they've been struggling with. And it may seem just a casual comment for you. However, it's that light that shines up in their light is dim at that point, and it lights up the whole place. So I'm a visual person, and I like to see things that could happen.
Yeah.
I was 93 before I really trusted my own voice, because when I was a kid and we were in the jungles of North India, I thought life was bliss. I mean, I loved it and everything was just fine. But when I started school, I couldn't read. I absolutely couldn't read. The letters and the numbers were just all over the page. The teacher labeled me the class dummy, and I couldn't graduate from first grade into second grade because I couldn't read. So I had to do it in another year, and I had 2 years of that, which was really, as I've looked back on it, was a scar on my psyche that was never really healed completely. I found ways in which I went around it and got over it and all of that, because my home, at home, everything was okay. I mean, my mother understood what is going on, and my, my home life was fine. And when I got into third grade, the teacher there saw something in me that no one else had seen. And so she appointed me class governor, which allowed me to take the things that we were doing in third grade and present it to the whole student body. I mean, and I could talk, but I couldn't read, but I sure could talk. So that was my job in the class. And the class had a play for the whole student body. And the play was The Frog Jumped Over the Pool. Well, I was taller than any of the other kids because I was a year older. And the frog I became the frog. And my mother got me a green suit. She dyed a green suit. And I came out on the stage full of, I knew what I was doing and I was going to do it right. And I stepped out on the stage, but as I walked on to the stage, my two older brothers were in the front row of the audience, but it threw me off my step just enough. Instead of jumping over the pond, I jumped into it. And so I'm standing there and my suit is fading and I'm crying and I can't move and I can't do it, and the audience is hysterical. They're laughing so hard and just doubled up and so on. The teacher has to come and take me off the stage. So we're at home and my brothers are telling my mother how hysterical this is, absolutely funny. This was the funniest thing. And of course, I'm giving them the devil's eye, but they're not paying any attention to me. They're just telling my mother. Finally, she says, "All right, boys, now you've had your fun. What can we as a family do to help Gladys if this ever happens to her again?" And I'm telling you, this dyslexia thing does sort of sometimes throw you off balance a little bit. I've stepped up onto a stage and tripped and had to grab some. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, but I've always been able to say something like, "Oh, I'm such a drama queen," or something like that, that I have the audience in my hands before I ever start my talk. It's been a really great gift. So it's an ability to take what is and make it, particularly if you could put some humor into it. My mother was amazing like that.
I love that you use the word gift and dyslexia together, because I'll share this with you. I'm also dyslexic. I grew up in a challenging environment around school because I was treated like I had a, disability. And it was only recently that I think it was a BBC article I heard. CEOs recognize now that people that have dyslexia have a very different way of seeing the world, and they have a very unique set of skills. And now they actively employ and look for dyslexic people because of the gifts that they have.
When we started the American Holistic Medical Association, one time there were 10 of us physicians sitting around a table, and we realized of the 10 of us, 6 of us were severely dyslexic.
Wow.
We looked at each other and we said, no wonder we have this alternative way of looking at life. Because we were, at that point, just as starting, we were saying to each other and to the world around us, we've got it all wrong. We don't have to try to kill pain or diseases. We have to understand them. And it's, but it took a group of us to understand and be able to talk about that, which is what you're talking. And I'm telling you, I've been doing these podcasts around the world, like with you.
Yeah.
When I tell this story, so often one of the hosts says, me too.
Yeah, I think I heard one of them already, and I thought, oh, well, I'm going to be saying the same thing when I chat with you. Do you see it now, on reflection, as a gift now?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very deep scar, because I was 93 before I began to trust my own voice. Prior to that, if I wrote something, I would ask Bill to go over it, please, or if I was speaking from the stage, I would quote somebody. I mean, it was I knew that what I was saying was important, but I had to have it validated. But then I had a dream, and in this dream, and I was 93 now, so I've been going through. I've written books, and I've been on. I've done a lot of stuff, but in me, the inner part of me, I was still saying, oh yeah, but shut up, because you don't want, you're dummy. And it was that sort of thing. Anyway, the dream was that I woke up with the sound of a huge clash. No, that was the other one. I woke up and I was laughing and I was singing. And I thought I could see myself as a 9-year-old Gladys out in the jungles in North India. And I was coming out of our tent, and I was peeking out of the tent flap to make sure my younger brother wasn't around, because he was going to tattle on me if I was going to do what I was going to do. Because in our family, we were not allowed to sing anything but hymns and bhajans on Sunday morning. And this was a Sunday morning. And in my dream, I knew I was a Sunday morning, but in reality, it was a Sunday morning. So it's a Sunday morning, and my brother isn't there anyplace, so I can do what I'm planning to do. So I ran as fast as I could up the mango tree, and I'm sitting up in the mango tree, and I'm singing the caterpillar song, and I'm singing any old thing that I wanted to sing, and I'm just happily singing. But every so often I think, oh, you better check. And I look over my shoulder, and Jesus is up in the tree with me. And I look at him and I say, Jesus loves the little children, right? And he says, he's laughing really hard. He says, yes. So I go back to my singing, and I'm singing. And then I think, did he really say that? And so I go back on my shoulder and I say, I'm still a little children, right? He says, yes. So I go back to my singing, and I wake up singing and laughing. And I realized that I really, really needed to claim my own voice. Even Jesus accepted. I mean, if he could accept it, I could accept it. And so I stopped doing the whole process of having to validate what I've said. And this new book that I have, because I've written a couple of those books, is the essence of what I've learned from doing the things and learning the things that I've done this up to this point.
I just think it's wonderful, someone with dyslexia has written books, and let me tell you, they are wonderful books. There's so much wisdom in these books, and you've got so much interest in you at the moment because of the old age you've lived to.
Thank you, because for me, life is a wow. I mean, I'm in such awe of the things that have happened for me, for my family, with the world, with our government and all of that. These things that are so important in our lives, and we live through them. We can try to get over them or something like that, but it doesn't work because they're still there. Yeah. So let me tell you one other thing, because this is pivotal to this. Another dream, and this has been about 10 years ago, something like that. I woke up with a huge crash, And I woke up and I was in the dream and out of the dream. And I found myself in the high Himalayas in a valley and on the right-hand side, there was a young woman just splayed out on the ground, barely alive. On the left-hand side, there was a huge man splayed out, barely alive, same position. And the voice came to me, and I'm standing there looking at these two. And the voice came to me, these two forces have been fighting each other, punching each other for eons. It's time that they came together and did what they were supposed to do, and so on. And when I really woke up, I realized that the girl was on the right-hand side, which is the masculine side, and the man was on the left-hand side, which is the feminine side. And so the duality of the sexes we've been fighting each other all of these eons. So I had a friend in Virginia Beach, and I called her about this dream, and we were talking about it and talking about the whole concept of manifestation. And she said to me, there's another word. It's called femifestation.
Yes.
And so as we talked, manifestation is Jacob's ladder. You take one step and then the next step, and you buy a house, you get your degree, you manifest in this world, and that's important. But all this time you've been femifesting also, and that's like a spiral. And so in a spiral, you can be on the second rung and know what's going on down on the first rung and deal with it. So we have that dual nature within ourselves. And like with the pregnancy, it's one when you're pregnant, but it's a real person when that baby takes its first breath. It manifests. We can manifest all we want to, but until we manifest something, it doesn't show up. So it's this dual nature of love as manifestation and so on. It's so blue and exciting that when you begin to put these things into context with your life, it's just like, whoa, that's a good one.
I know you shared in the book about your own son who was upside down in the womb. And you articulate this beautiful story about just loving him the right way up. And then you go on to say that, it's like flipping it around. And this is kind of the secret that you leave the audience or the reader with. It's kind of like you're helping people to flip their lives and face life the right way up. I thought that was a beautiful analogy that you used.
He's an ophthalmologist. He takes care of people's eyes. He's a good doctor.
I think this book it's certainly been a gift to me, and I'm definitely going to be rereading it. Very rare I come across a book that just has so much wisdom. I think it's a living thing, this book. Everything is energy. And you talk about that in the book as well, that everything is energy. And I don't know if you've heard of the great Dolores Cannon. She's passed on now, but one of her very famous quotes is everything is energy.
Yes. But it is. And if you stop the energy, it dies.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. All that I've done doesn't amount to a hill of beans if you don't pick it up and go with it. We're interdependent. I may have manifested a bunch of stuff here, but look what you're manifesting. It's you allow me to manifest these things, which isn't life awesome?
And so many synchronicities if we choose to see them, some people can see the world as so random, but obviously you see life through a particular lens. And you talk about that as far as being about purpose. And I love that. And I wanted to ask you, what is your purpose? I know you've got a 10-year plan.
Well, the whole concept of living medicine is so important to me to work with, but creating a village for living medicine, which I think, the Christ had to become flesh and dwell among us in order for the Christ consciousness to become real. All right. Well, I think that a village for living medicine, actually, and I really believe this, needs to become a reality on this earth, not just in one place, but other places where people see the vision and see that when life and love become the central part, the sanctuary of that village, then everybody that just steps onto the ground begins their healing. It's a concept that has so many layers and aspects to it that it's hard to even visualize what the infrastructure of that village is, because in my mind it would be different places. It'd be different in Australia than it would be in Mexico or in Scottsdale, Arizona. But the kind of infrastructure that is kind of fun to think about, for my 100 and whatever second birthday, I rode a tricycle out onto the platform. And the reason I did that is because when we started the American Holistic Medical Association, it's like there were two wheels that medicine worked with, and they were fine, but that's as far as they were going to go. So we came along with the concept of holistic medicine and put the third wheel onto this framework of medicine. And now it had a way of moving so that it could move forward and do what it needs to do. But how's it going to do that if a person doesn't climb up on the seat and bring the human life force into that structure so that when it does move, it's a person, a real person who has a purpose in this life, who came to this life to do these things, and then knows the direction they need to go in.
Yeah.
So it's that accepting the reality of who we are, and that we have access to this tricycle, which can take us, because the wheel of time is always moving.
It's a great illustration, a great analogy. I love that you did that for your 102nd birthday. It's a beautiful thing. And, purpose, you've obviously got so much of it. And a lot of people, they lack purpose. I think there's a scripture in the Bible that says, when people lack purpose, the people perish without purpose, without meaning. What would you say to those that are looking for purpose in their own life?
Well, you can't make them have purpose. Okay. It's hard to really make another person's, you can do what you can do, but then they have to take it. It's like I told my son, the orthopedic surgeon, he had to understand that it was the physician within that patient who actually had to do the healing. It's I think it's our duty to live our lives the best we can, not just our duty, our bliss. I mean, this is our privilege to live it, so that we can then speak with authority when we can say to somebody, like I can present the 5 L's, and maybe someplace along the line that'll just ring true for somebody. But whether it does or not is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to do the best I can to present these concepts and actually live our lives as best we can so that someone else wants to do it. You know, they reach, you know, if you're reaching to them, they reach back to you. And if that happens, then you've got a colleague that's going to work with you. But I needed to reach out to my own voice, but it took me a long time.
It's so powerful that you found that voice even at the age of 92. And that voice is going out into the world far and wide. It's reached me. You're a hero of mine now. You've incredibly inspired me. And I'm so thrilled for you. I'm so thrilled that, you know, a life's work is being recognized in the capacity it is now. And I just think it's wonderful. I think it embodies everything that you teach in the book, everything you talk about, and it's just life giving back to you. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
And isn't it amazing that you can do this and take it in and it becomes part of your life? Then you're part of my life and I'm part of your life. And so the life goes on.
And that's the interconnectedness, when we realize that we're really all one beyond form, and we sense that, we know that, we see life through a very different lens. We don't see all the division and separateness, and we feel that. I'd be absolutely delighted to do this again.
I would be really happy.
Someone who admires you a lot.
Well, if you ever come to the States, come to Scottsdale.
Absolutely. I'll come and say hi. I'll have a cup of tea. All right. Much love.
Love you too.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye.